Welcome to Doing Different with Kimmy. Doing Different celebrates women over 50 who are aging gracefully and empower and inspire through their courage, through their creativity and individuality as well. Whether you're exploring new passions, tackling challenges head on, or simply finding joy in the little things, this is your space. On Doing Different, you are seen, heard, and understood. You are not alone. You have a purpose, and your life is just beginning. Embrace the new you and redefine what it means to live with purpose and vibrancy. This is the moment to discover your voice and to chart a path that is uniquely yours. We welcome those from all walks of life, especially those who are empty nesters, caregivers, have chronic pain, terminal illness, divorced, suffering from mental illness, addiction, widowed, authors, and podcasters. This platform is here to help you not feel alone. Our special guest today is Leslie Kane, the founder of Why Not Today movement and podcast. Leslie has dedicated her career to empower women to live authentically and joyfully. Inspired by her late father, whose motto was, "Why Not Today?" she founded the Why Not Today podcast to share stories of courage and resilience, encouraging others to confront their fears and take bold actions in their lives. Leslie has years of experience coaching thousands of women and has courses that offer practical strategies for both personal and professional growth. Hey, Leslie, welcome to the podcast of Doing Different with Kimmy. How are you today?
Great. Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be a guest.
I was wondering if you could tell our audience today how you took that bold step to pursue your dreams and make a change and try something new. What got you started?
So it's definitely a lot of, I call them why not today moments. And it's those moments in time where you're doing something, you have an idea, and you act on it, and it totally changes the trajectory of your life. So I was walking with a friend one day, and I said, I'd been on her podcast, and I said, I want to do a podcast. She's like, you should. I'm like, it scared me. I had no idea how to do it, what to do. And so a couple months went by, and I really hadn't thought that much about it. And then my dad, my podcast is named after his legacy, he was a character, and he actually lost his eyesight in a car accident the night he graduated from high school. So he always had an eye patch and he had a handlebar mustache. So he signed everything that way. And so I was on a social media site I'm not ever on. And for some reason I was on, and again, a why not today moment. I know exactly where I was. And this man that knew my dad posted something that he had had some surgery and had to wear an eye patch. And he said every morning he woke up and looked in the mirror and thought of his old friend Pat Kane. And he talked about all my dad's accomplishments, everything he did. And he said, and we both said, why not today? And although I don't know if I ever really heard him say that, but he was definitely a problem solver. Everything was figure outable. He was a big thinker, like plan A, B, C, D. You know, he was way ahead of his time thinking. And so I told my friend about that I talked about the podcast. She's like, that's the name of your podcast. And why not today? Just do it. And so
Wow.
I did it scared. And I started March 5th, 2022 was my first episode. And I always say I don't procrastinate, but I'm deadline driven. And so March 5th was actually the day my dad was born and the day he passed away. And so that was my day. So I literally recorded my first episode on Friday afternoon and posted it on Saturday. I'm just
Oh
like,
my
I'm just
goodness.
starting where this is going, but I'm starting.
Wow, that is amazing. And he passed away on his birthday. That
Yeah, isn't that
is,
crazy?
wow,
Yeah. So
wow.
I
I'm
just
so
started.
sorry.
No, well, thank you. That was
But he
12 years.
left you, he inspired you, and he left
He
you with
did.
something great.
And I talk about him all the time, and his legacy continues with this podcast that lives on. So I started as just something fun. I also have a 30-year career with Mary Kay Cosmetics, which I still pursue, and it still pays bills. But I started the podcast, and it was fun. And I was every other week. And literally, if you walk by me, you said anything courageous, I'm like, do you want to be on my podcast? And within a
Yeah.
year and a half, I was doing it every week. So now I do an episode every week. I've not missed think that's one of my keys to consistency is key to success is consistency.
That's right.
Um, and
Consistency.
then it's evolved. I started a business around it in January of 2024, and it just keeps growing. And I'm still trying to figure out what I'm doing with it.
And the business is what that you've
It's so I started an LLC called Why Not Today. And for the podcast, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I have merchandise, I have cups and t-shirts. My really big, like big, they called your big, hairy, audacious goal is that Why Not Today someday is a phrase like life is good.
yeah.
And people are always quoting me back. So I have merchandise. So it started there. And then I had another why not today moment. I couldn't sleep. And I'm one that I have an idea and I act, I jump. And so I'm like, we're missing community and connection. And especially after COVID, getting out back out there networking. So I used to have a networking luncheon, and I'm like, you know what? I am bringing that back. So I created in January 2025, Why Not Today Connects Luncheon. So I do once a month a non-traditional networking luncheon. You don't give elevator speeches. It's really building those relationships. And then because I've got 30 years experience helping women build businesses, I started coaching, and now I'm helping women build businesses. Um, what
Wow.
what I did find with starting this business is I didn't know what I didn't know. And Mary Kay did so much for us. Like a website for Mary Kay was $30. I just through a grant spent $10,000 getting mine redone. I mean, initially I just
Wow.
threw something up. But, I'm finding that there's so many women starting businesses that are lonely, and we
Yeah.
don't have somebody coming beside us to support us. And so I just kicked off a Women Taking Action Inner Circle group of coaching um, program to be able to help women with every business.
Yeah, and that's my dream too, is not, not helping them with business, but I have to be helped in that. But just to have them be seen and to be heard. There's so many out there that are going through heartache, and I went through that in 2019 all the way up until I would say about 6 months ago. I just could not get out of my slump of a situation that happened with estrangement with my daughter, and it was pretty severe, and it was like going through grief, like somebody who had died, and it just hit me really hard, and I didn't have any friends, and of course, yes, it's COVID had hit, and so even if I had friends, I wouldn't have been able to get together with them, but I didn't have that connection. And there are so many people out there that are hurting, and they don't have an outlet. They don't have anybody to talk to, and they don't, and it's important that their story gets heard. They have stories. You don't have to be an author to tell your story. You can go on a podcast and tell your story, and it can make a world of difference to somebody out there. And if there's other people that know that, yes, somebody else is going through estrangement with their adult children, and somebody else is going through divorce, somebody else is a caregiver for that aging parent, and just all these different subjects. Yes, somebody else is suffering with mental illness, depression, anxiety, panic attacks, and all that. And so I like to get the word out and talk about it. And also, in your situation, I love what you're doing. And I'm glad that Laura Carney connected us, because she saw the value in what you're doing, and then it impressed me, and I wanted to talk with you. And I'm so glad that you came today to talk with me, because it's so important to get these women that are feeling like, in a slump, but they can do something with their life. It's not over.
Absolutely not.
Your life is just beginning over 50, actually.
Well, yeah, you just never know who is paying attention to. Um, and so I always wear, and I have it on today, a starfish necklace. Do you know the story of the starfish?
Oh my gosh, it's in my bathroom, but I don't remember
No.
what it
So
says,
this
but it's
man was walking down the
in my
beach, picking up
bathroom.
starfish, throwing them in the ocean. And this guy walked up, he's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm saving the starfish." He's like, "There's thousands out here. How could you possibly make a difference?" And he picked one up and threw it in the ocean and said, "I made a difference in that one's life." And so I really feel like telling our story. So whether it's a podcast, a book, I just did a workshop on how to start a podcast, because I think we need to share our story. We have We all have powerful stories, and somebody else, you never know who needs to hear it. And it's just the me too. We hide behind the shame of addiction and suicide,
Yeah.
estrangement, all the things, and we think nobody else is going through it. And they are. And so that awareness, I know somebody I had on my podcast, her brother at 15 in a very affluent county where we live was addicted to heroin
Yeah.
and ended up passing away. And immediately, her and her family started a nonprofit of the awareness and being
Oh,
able to
that's
give
awesome.
resources. So, if with the podcast, if we can give voice to those things. I had a friend of mine
Right.
on who had some dental work done and got highly addicted to opioids to
Oh
the point
God.
that she went to pick up her prescription and her husband went to pick up a prescription and the pharmacist gave him Narcan and she had to get clean and it was months of
It's really hard. Addiction is
detox.
extremely, yeah,
But we
addiction
don't
is
talk
really
about
hard.
those things. And, and the world of business now, and this is why I'm so passionate about that. A lot of people are trying to do things on their own. I had somebody
Yeah.
speak at my luncheon the other day, and she's like, I had several failed businesses because I didn't want to ask for help. My ego was too big. And yet,
Hmm.
people don't start a business here and end up there as a straight line. There is ups and downs and you have more failures and more bad days and you have good days, but you have a good day and it keeps you going. But we don't talk
Exactly.
about that. You see somebody, you see Steve Jobs that in a garage started a business and then he had Apple,
Yeah.
but you see all the things in between. And I was talking to somebody about this today that he worked for a company that he needed some help with coding. So he called his friend Steve Wozniak to
Yep.
get
Yep.
help. And that's, because he was wise enough to ask for help. So I think we need to
Exactly.
ask for help and not try to figure this all on our own.
I think he actually bought him out at the
Yes,
end.
eventually, yes.
Yeah, his
Yeah,
friend out at the so he got what he needed and everything. And yeah, he was brilliant, brilliant
yeah.
brain. And getting back to addiction, that's another thing that I like to touch upon in my podcast. And my nephew at the age of 44 in 2021 during COVID overdosed with fentanyl. And he had been homeless his entire life.
Oh,
And
wow.
my sister, she was helping him out as much as she could. She couldn't have him live with her. She lives in a subsidized housing. And so she helped him as much as she could. But, where was her voice? She didn't have anybody to talk to, and she didn't think we as a family could relate. But she doesn't understand that we as a family had alcoholism in our family. So of
Right.
course we could have related and we could have talked, but I think she needed more of an outside connection with counseling and stuff like that because it's pretty devastating to lose. That was her baby. She's in her 70s, and so that was really hard for her. And his son had to be adopted out, and it was
Mhm.
just a big mess. So I like to address those things and I like to address those women that are lonely and that they're not seen and, like starting a business, starting a podcast and just do it. And that's my motto
Not
is
today.
just do it. Just do it and get it done and do different. And that was when I came up with the name Doing Different is I believe it was when I was being interviewed by Stacey Lauren with Do the Thing. And we were just talking and she was interviewing me and I kept saying, it was so different. When my daughter left, it's like I didn't know what to do. It was so different because my whole life was wrapped up in my kids and now I got one that's gone. The other one just left in the middle of the night, packed her bags. I didn't know where she was for 5 months.
Oh, wow.
And what do I do? I mean, that's my life. What do I do? Where do I start? I started picking up playing guitar and then I started my painting. I have a free painting class that I offer with acrylics. And I started, discovering during COVID that I had these talents and abilities that were stuffed away. And I never reached in and brought them out because my life was for my kids. So now I started doing that. And then I started a garden. And so I had to learn how to garden. So I was learning to play guitar. I was just painting, with inspiration. I didn't take any lessons and reading up on how to grow a garden. There's a lot of trial with that, especially in Florida. And then the double back-to-back hurricanes hit. I finally got my beautiful garden to grow, and here comes, two hurricanes back to back and just devastates the entire area. I'm 10 minutes from the beach,
Oh, wow.
which was completely an apocalyptic scene. My daughter, we're talking now, better than we were, but she lost her apartment, she lost the church that they work at. It was just devastating. And so I'm just happy. And I did this without community. I did this with only God's help, with, being inspired to just, I got to do something. I can't just sit here and cry and let myself go. Although my health was very affected from the trauma that I went through, I still managed in between to play that guitar and paint that picture and garden. And then I started getting into apothecary. So then I started taking a class. I did take a class with apothecary and I started making my own home remedies. And so then that snowballed. Now I'm making tea and I'm
Oh,
packaging it. I'm giving it away. I don't make money on anything. I just like to help people. And
that's
so
awesome.
now I'm drying my herbs from my garden and I'm packaging them in bags and I give them away. So I just think people need to be heard and I appreciate what you're
Oh,
doing.
absolutely.
And I know that you had mentioned to me that in the form that I had you fill out that your superpowers include creating systems and building community and connection. And so let me ask you this. What was or what is your kryptonite? I mean, your superpowers are creating and building and connecting and all. Is there anything at all that kind of gets in the way and then you have to like reevaluate it and um, get over come around it some other way, like you're able
Well,
to conquer that?
Well, don't they say your strengths are often your weaknesses? And I think
Mm,
one of my big strengths is my creativity, and one of my big weaknesses is my creativity. I'm always
mm,
coming up with new ideas.
yeah.
Not only do I still have a full-time Mary Kay business, but I'm doing a luncheon, a podcast, coaching, merchandise. Oh, and I
Wow.
volunteer like crazy. I do tons with my family. I just got volunteered to be on another committee. I'm on a board. Um,
You're busy.
I started a nonprofit. So yeah. So that's probably my biggest downfall is I've got so many things going on,
Yeah.
but I'm
Yeah.
never
And
bored.
I gotta get in the boat with you. I gotta get in your boat so I could keep even
Well, it
busier than
was
I have been.
interesting. I was just talking to my sister and she has a 9 to 5 job. And so, she's done at 5. And we talked about an hour ago and she's like, all right, I fixed dinner. I cleaned the dishes. I'm done. She goes, now I'm baking because it's raining. I have nothing else to do and I'm bored. I'm like, bored is not a word I have ever used, I think.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think maybe I've been
I
bored
was
twice in
bored
my
during
life.
COVID, but I have lately I with the podcast and everything, I really haven't been bored. It slowed down a little bit, but I got another one next week and then I got one in August and I'm trying to fill in some time. So usually I'm on this podcast, I'll usually ask if anybody's interested that they can email me. So that I usually do that at the end. But let me ask you what was the most difficult or what was most difficult in growing your business and were you ever stuck before? And if so, how did you get unstuck?
Well, I think, I've got 2 businesses. Mary Kay business, obviously there were times I was stuck but there was such a hierarchy that I remember I knew that when I didn't want to call my mentor that I could or I should. When you didn't feel motivated, I had people to call and reach out to and help me, support me. I was very blessed that it was such a community of people that wanted to help you. We weren't competing, but we were helping each other. Starting this new business with Why Not Today, probably the hardest thing is I didn't know what I didn't know. Like there's so many pieces to starting a business. I mean, it took
Yeah.
me a while to start an LLC because I didn't know how to do it. it took literally, it takes 15, 20 minutes. So I met with somebody the other day that's starting a business and she's waiting to talk to a financial person to figure out how to do a LLC. I'm like, it's not hard. Go home and do it today. And she texted me that night. She goes, I just did it.
Oh,
And so,
wow.
so it's being able to ask people and to learn. There's so much out there to learn. Love to learn. I went to a seminar today that Google put on their AI, Gemini, and it's like learn new tricks. So I'm always learning, um, and everything's figure outable. But yeah, the
And
stuckness
I
is not knowing what I
And I
didn't know.
think that scares people. I really
Oh,
do.
absolutely.
I know that it's intimidating to me, and it's a miracle that I've even stepped out to even create this podcast and my painting, my tutorials with the painting classes through Zoom and everything. That in and of itself is a miracle because even though I love to talk and I love to socialize, there's still a fear inside of me, because I want to jump ahead and I want this and that, and I want this business, and I want to have this, I want to do that. And it's like, then I get overwhelmed because I don't know the steps to taking where I need to be. So it seems to just happen. Like if I wanted to do this podcast, I just got online, how do you do a podcast, and I didn't do it the way that I should have. I wish that I had had some mentoring and stuff. And so, but I did, do it, because like I said, my motto is just do it. So that's what I did is I just did it. But I just wish that I was more organized and I just could get over that anxiety. And I know a lot of women, that are listening right now that have that doubt that, I want to do it, but no, there's no way that I could do it because, I don't have the means, I don't have the finances, I don't have the time, I don't know anything about the internet, or there's a lot of people out there that don't know anything about social media and how to even get plugged in, and especially over 50. It's really hard. They're not technology savvy, and so
So
it's
those are
hard.
all stories that people are telling themselves.
Yes,
And I always
yes.
tell people, if you're going to make up a story, make up a good story. I'm over 50 and I'm all into technology. Now, do I know how to edit my podcast? No, and I don't want to. But, using chat, using all these tricks. So, I
You
always tell my
just have to
mom,
have somebody kind of give you like a little bit of
exactly.
info and just a little nudge.
And
And once
give
you
you
get that information, then you take it and you run with it.
And it's just trying the first step. Why not today? What can you do today to move it forward? It doesn't,
Right.
you don't have to do a big thing, just what's one little thing. And I
Yeah.
always have taught people that, things that seem scary and overwhelmed or you don't want to do, working out's a great example. You get up in the morning, you're like, I'm going to work out, I'm going to do this. Well, you don't feel like it, it's hot, you come up with excuses. I taught water aerobics for a long time. So I always used to tell my class, I'm like, when you wake up and you think you don't feel like it, do it. Because if you
Hmm.
do it, the rest of your day is amazing. You're
It
excited, you got
is.
it done, it's done. If you don't do it, you're thinking about it all day and it's growing bigger and bigger. So always think about the end. Like I'm
Yeah.
going out of town in a couple of days and I got a list a mile long. And so what I told myself this morning, instead of feeling overwhelmed, the story I told myself is, you know what? By the time you go to bed early tomorrow night, you're gonna have everything done and you're gonna be able to take time off because you got it all done easily without any issues. Instead of saying, oh, I'm so overwhelmed, I don't know how it's gonna get all done. Things are gonna go sideways. And I'm
Right.
just claiming that.
And it feels so much better too. Once you
Oh
go
yeah.
ahead and you do it, then you can just take a breath and relax the rest of the day,
Yeah,
and
we
it's
blow
not
it up
hanging
in
over
our
you.
brain and it grows. There's a great book by Brian Tracy called Eat That Frog. And it talks about, if you have something to do the scariest, biggest, yuckiest thing first.
Yeah.
And don't, because otherwise it grows in your mind. And, how many things have we needed to do in our life? And we think about it for weeks or months or years, like starting LLC. I thought about it for a year and a half. And finally I did it. I gave myself a deadline and I did it that day. It took me maybe 20 minutes.
Wow.
And I
That's
spent hours
amazing.
wait, spent hours thinking about it. And there's so many things like that.
Yeah.
Making that phone call, doing those things. Just think about how you're going to feel when you're done.
And it's like fear of the unknown. That's where
Oh,
it's coming from.
absolutely.
It's fear of the
Yeah.
unknown. And with me, I can speak for myself, fear of the unknown, but I'm the kind of person that wants to know how, I want to know why, and I just want to do it, but it doesn't mean that I'm fearless, because I do have that fear and I do have that doubt, but I'm I'm compelled to get it done. And yeah, there's a couple of days where I won't, do my chores like vacuuming and stuff, which would have been unheard of before being an empty nester. I was always cleaning and, that was my life. And now it's like, nobody's here. Who cares if the bed's not made? I really don't care.
More
So
important thing to do.
more important things to do. So let me ask you this. How do you think your business has touched and inspired others to discover their voice and pursue their passions? And can you give us an example of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've given people courage, and listening to other people's stories on the podcast. I always say I want to give people permission and hope. And again, just like the starfish story, you never know who's watching and who's paying attention and who you're influencing. I met some young girl one day, and my sister introduced me to her. She's like, "Oh, you're the one with the podcast. I listen to your podcast every day on my hour and a half commute." And she goes, "Listen to that podcast motivated me to apply for another job, and now I don't have to commute." I had somebody the other day that came to my luncheon, and she was probably late 50s, early 60s. I don't know her exact age, but she was working a corporate job, basically said she felt like she'd been sent out to pasture, exactly what we're talking
Yeah.
about.
Hmm.
And she came to the luncheon, and this is a random, like, I found her online on a free Facebook group because she gave me toys for her dog.
Oh,
Or for
wow.
her dog didn't want them. She gave me toys for my dog. She signed up for my luncheon. I'm like, who is this? Well, she came to my luncheon because the guest speaker I had, she knew. But she said after she left the luncheon, she sent me a testimonial. She said, I literally got in my car and out loud said, I'm back.
Yes.
Applied for a new job, and within 3 weeks had a new job.
Wow. See, she needed that motivation and she
She
needed
did. She
that.
needed that community, the connection. I had somebody else that came to my luncheon and wanted to get a tattoo and walked to the tattoo parlor next to it where the luncheon was to make an appointment. And he's like, I can take you now. And so next time I saw her, she's like, look,
Oh my
why not today?
gosh.
People are always telling me they're why not todays. What is it? Oh, somebody today sent me an email saying that she bought a house in Spain. Why
Wow.
not today?
Why not today? That's right. I want to buy one in France. Why not today?
Yeah.
But now,
The cool thing is anything is possible. We
yeah,
can anything, you never know what can happen tomorrow. We are not in charge, good
no,
and
we are
bad.
not.
And so just be open to, like, if you have that dream in your heart and you just feel that nudge, like, lean into it and start, because you just never know. Start learning French,
Yeah. Oh,
you know?
well, I am 100% French. My family is
Okay.
French, and I didn't know how to speak English till I was 7 years old.
Okay.
And
So
so,
plan where you're going to live.
what's that?
Make a plan of where you're going to live. Put it on a poster.
Yeah, I wish. Unfortunately, the finances will not permit me to
Things
go
can
where I want to go
change
right now, but it
right
doesn't
now.
mean that it won't be there later.
Exactly.
And I believe that, like you said, things can change. And I've tried to encourage my 30-year-old son who has a lot of, excuse me, a lot of disabilities. He wants to work, he wants to make guns and work for the forestry and, the wild game and all that. But because of his um, certain situations, some of his disorders, it's hard for him. And he's a 911 operator and he's hearing impaired. And so that's really tough for him. And he's got a special headset that is Bluetooth connected where it can amplify. But it's not his passion. It's not what he desires to do. He wants to make guns or work in a gunsmith, something like that, and he doesn't know where to start. So I keep encouraging him, like you encourage your listeners, and I'll say, just do it. And, I'm going to start telling him, why not today? What's holding you back? And he'll come up with every excuse in the book. Well, I work 12 hours a day. Well, how do you expect me to go to school if I'm working 12 hours a day? Well, where there's a will, there's a way. There are scholarships. You can do school at home. He's already gone to college, but he
Well,
would
I can
just
give
have to
you a
do something
connection
different.
too. I can give you a connection too. I know somebody who started a business based on her kids who um, had issues in school. One's got autism, and she teaches kids how to. I know he's 30, but she's still her son who has autism. She teaches kids how to start businesses.
Oh,
And her
wow.
16-year-old son with autism has had 4 businesses already.
Wow, that's
And he
amazing.
does an academy that walks you through. It's fairly inexpensive of how to set up a business.
Yeah, and that's so important too for their for their own, what do you call it? Self assurance,
Yep.
to know that they're doing self-esteem and
Yeah.
self-assurance, to know that they're making a difference. And with my son, it says heart disorder, blood disorder, hearing impairment, those kinds of things. And it's been a rough journey, but I am there to encourage him. And I'm saying, look at me, I'm almost 60 years old, and I'm teaching painting classes and having a podcast, and anything is possible. Just stop making the excuses and just do it.
Right.
But it takes time. So I'm just still praying for him. And so let me ask you this. Is there anything new that you are endeavoring upon in your business? I think I heard something the other day when I
Yeah.
was watching you, that you were endeavoring upon something new.
Yeah. So kind of my heart has been helping groups of people. Although I can coach one to one, it's really there's magic in community and groups. And for 30 years, I held success meetings, as we called it in Mary Kay, with tracking, with accountability, with recognition, with mastermind. So I just kicked off, I rebranded my Facebook group called Women Taking Action because we need to take more action. And then I'm starting a Women Taking Action Inner Circle group that's kicking off on the 14th. And it's going to be just women in business. And I know somebody, a friend of mine, that has signed up, and she's a coach and successful and had lots of businesses. But she's like, what I'm missing is community and accountability and tracking
And connection. Yeah. Yeah, that's
connection.
really
So, yeah.
that's
So
really
that's what we're
important.
doing new.
Yeah. Do you feel that any parts of your story, your journey, are unresolved or ready for the next evolution? Is there anything at all that's
Um,
ready?
you know what? It keeps growing every day. Who knows?
Yeah.
Where it's going. Obviously, I want to get the merchandise part going, but it's just bandwidth of my time. And I actually, in talking about finding resources, like I found the funding for my website. Um, and it's just being out there and asking. And so, Virginia Tech, which is the college I graduated for, they in their business school, they actually do a mentoring program with students. So in the fall semester, I'm going to have 5 college senior business students working on my business,
Oh, that's
which is
awesome.
really
And
kind
how
of
did that
cool.
get set up? How did you
I
get
know
that?
somebody who works with them for some nonprofit work, and she said he just put something on LinkedIn. He's looking for um, businesses to do pro bono work, and I am one, as I said, I act. So
Yeah.
my friend Carrie and I had coffee on a Thursday. I sent him a LinkedIn post or message. By that afternoon, we set up a call for Monday. It happened to be right before Christmas. And we set up a call on Monday. And he said, "You're a perfect fit," but he didn't think he had anybody for spring semester. But he's like, "How about fall?" And I've just stayed in
Oh,
touch. So,
wonderful.
it's one of those things I just acted on
Yeah.
something I see. And it's like Laura Carney, how I connected with her is I saw her on CBS Sunday Morning. I never
Oh,
watched CBS Sunday Morning. And I saw her, it was Father's Day, and I saw her story and I got her book. And ironically, I was in Asheville when I got the book. And her first chapter, her first thing she did on her father's bucket list was swim across the French Broad River, which is in Asheville.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I reached out. I'm like, I have a podcast. Would you be on it? She's like, I'd love to. And then she was actually drove from She went to Asheville for a book signing, drove back through Northern Virginia on her way to New Jersey and spoke at my luncheon. And
Oh,
so,
that's
but I asked,
amazing.
so
Yeah,
being
you asked.
aware to what's out there and asking,
That's right. She's
not
so
being
sweet.
afraid. She is.
I
I love her.
I really like her a lot. She's a really good friend of mine. She actually comes to my painting classes.
Oh,
So
fun.
that yeah, she's so sweet. And I know
Yeah.
that you had mentioned that you had wanted or that you want to grow and scale beyond your current network. What so I wanted to ask you how that looks. What's going to help you in achieving that? Did we already touch base on that specific subject?
Really. So the good thing about me is I've lived in the same town my whole life and I'm very connected. And so probably for the first 6 months of my lunch, nobody walked in that I didn't know personally. Um, and so I am actually working with a sales coach and playing more in Facebook and social media and just being intentional
Yeah.
and, adding new friends every day and then connecting with them, having conversations with them. I was telling in this coach the other day, I said, I'm doing the exact same thing I did as I did a table in Mary Kay, but I don't have to be in heels. It's not hot. It's not cold. It's not hours. I'm sitting on the couch doing it. And so I'm
Yeah.
trying to grow past my world, obviously getting on podcasts like this to meet new people, but getting my voice out there
Is
past.
Mary Kay still doing that in person with the tables and the different
Some people
activities?
are. I
Yeah,
don't. Um,
yeah,
I mean, I did a couple things at Christmas and Halloween last year,
yeah.
but um, and with my inner circle program, I'm actually sprinkling some Mary Kay. One of the things I do is a virtual spa session. So
Oh,
friends are like, you need to add that as part of it.
yeah.
Anybody that joins the inner circle is getting a welcome box with treats in it. So
And then
things
you
that
get together and go through the box. That's great. That is a great idea. Do you notice do you notice any reoccurring patterns that in your journey that you want to transform though? I mean, is there anything that that's reoccurring that you want to change up?
probably the creativity. I don't want
The
to stop my
creativity?
creativity, but quit running with so many ideas. And
Yeah.
I want to work. And I do work too much. I'm single. I don't have any kids and I can work all the time.
Oh,
So I do
wow.
what I call my toes in the sand tour. And every month I try to go somewhere that's a beach or a lake or somewhere to get away, to stop.
Yeah. You'll have to come down here. There's a lot of beach
And
and
where are
it's
you
all,
in Florida?
I'm on St. Pete Beach,
Okay. My dad
St.
was
Petersburg.
actually a city planner and he redeveloped the downtown St. Petersburg.
My husband works downtown and one of the high rises at a residence, a huge residence condo, very upscale.
Yeah, he
But the
redid it
building's been there. The
all.
building is the oldest condo.
Yeah,
So
he did the
he might have
redevelopment
developed it.
years ago. Yeah, I spent a lot of time. I've got a friend at the condo at Anna Maria Island, so I spent a lot of time there.
Yeah,
During
that's a
COVID, I
beautiful
was there.
place.
I think I was there 3 times for 2 weeks at a time. So
Wow, that's beautiful. I'm not really a beachy person.
I
I'm more
am.
of a mountain. Give me a log cabin in the mountains with some nice snow, and that's what I'm originally from Maine. So
Yeah.
when I moved down here in 85, we had only been here 3 weeks. I followed my parents down, and after they retired, I wish that I wouldn't have done that. I was engaged and he came down here with me and because we thought, oh, this is going to be a great adventure. And as a matter of fact, I'm giving a presentation tomorrow on Modern Prairie about my experiences in Florida. And it's kind of I'm talking about Disney, talking about the pier downtown St. Petersburg, and talking about when I arrived and how all these experiences just hit me, and lizards and sand spurs, and the hurricane hit. There was a hurricane that hit 3 weeks after we came down here.
Wow.
It was enough. It was bad enough that it was a culture shock to me from coming from Maine to to Florida with the heat in the middle of August. But then you get Hurricane Elena and we all had to evacuate. We had never evacuated before in Maine. I mean, we can have blizzards and northeasterns and everything, but A hurricane? Oh, I'm telling you, I still haven't gotten over it. And I am not a beach person.
I
Although
would
I
be
don't
fan.
mind going to the beach to see the sunset when it's cool in the
Mhm.
cooler months with a jacket and walk the beach, but I hate the texture of sand. So, it's just I'm not living in the right place,
No, you're
Leslie.
not.
I'm telling
I'll
you right
switch places
now.
with you.
We
Except
need to switch.
Florida
We
is a
need to
little too hot this time of year. I've been there 4th of July many times.
Oh
And
gosh, it's
uh,
it's it's going to be raining. The rain is going to start here and it will rain for 5 days. And the only good thing about it is that the fireworks will not be being set off in my neighborhood so that my dog goes nuts and crazy because she goes crazy. So,
well, mine's hiding in the bathroom right now because it was thundering earlier. So
aw,
Mhm.
I seen your dog. I saw the picture of your dog and I made a comment about or replied about the size of your dog's bed and you thought it might have been too little, but I
Yeah,
said it
I
was
bought one the
cozy.
other day and it was too big, and then I got this one. I haven't decided if I'm keeping it yet, but
Well, it's cozy.
she
They
can
sometimes
travel
they
up in
like
this
that.
little teeny ball. Yeah, so
Well, my dog hides
decided.
under a pillow on the recliner, so
There you
she's very antisocial. But
go.
I know that you talked about your dad, so that was your primary influence because, right? Because that's what I was going to ask you next is what or who was your primary influence that motivated you to start your journey in helping others? And I think it was your dad, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
He always owned his own business, so I watched that
Right. What
model.
was it that he did again? You said he
City
came down here to
planner.
St. Pete?
He was a city planner. He helped redevelop towns. But
Wow.
then, in starting Mary Kay, um, I had so many mentors in that and helped support me and help grow. Uh,
Right. And that's a lot. That helped you quite a bit because
yeah.
I was in Mary Kay and I had a great mentor. And as I had discussed with you before the podcast, I was doing pretty good in it. And then, I was working a regular job and then I started having kids and I wasn't able to continue, but I had a great mentor. She had a great accent too. She was from Ireland and everything sounds really good
Was
when
it
you have an
Jillian
accent.
Ortega?
No,
No,
Miriam, oh gosh, it was 40 years ago. Miriam,
I don't think I know Miriam, but there was a Jillian that was from
she became a pastor. She left Mary Kay to become a
Okay.
minister. Yeah,
Hmm.
I don't know where she is today. But if you're out there, Miriam, get a hold of me.
That's
So
fun.
anyway, do you have so we're approaching the end of the podcast, but I wanted to know before we go if you have any advice at all for our listeners today and how they can take that first step in doing their different,
Do it scared. Just take that first step. Why
even
not
if you're
today?
scared.
Don't wait, just start. You can do anything you want. There's a YouTube channel, there's a chat GPT, you can look it up. Like if you have an idea in your heart and it keeps you up at night and people are like I always say, if somebody says to you, "Oh, how did you do that?" And you're like, "Oh, it's so easy." Like
Yeah.
put it in place, like do something about it. I actually have a story of a friend of mine in Mary Kay that is a great decorator. And one day we are going to get ice cream and she was talking about all these people wanted her to help decorate. And I'm like, you really need to start a business with this. She didn't hear me say that, start a business, but she called me 2 days later. She goes, I couldn't sleep and woke up and I have the name of my business and it's the LLC started ongoing.
Oh
And
my
so,
goodness.
you just need to act on it. Don't wait. And if it doesn't work, that's okay. But at least you
Right.
tried. You don't wonder.
At
But if it's
least
a
you tried.
business, a nonprofit, if you want to run a race, if you want to volunteer, any of those things, just start because you just
Yeah,
never
just do it. Just do it. And
that's it.
when you talk about Chat GPT, the first time, well, I had heard about it, but my doctor is the one that told me about it. And I was asking her questions about hormones and all kinds of things. She goes, go to Chat GPT. Chat GPT will tell you what you can and cannot eat if you have kidney stones, which I do, and ask it. Just ask it all kinds of questions. And I
Oh,
was like,
anything. You just
wow, she's not
as
afraid to
big
be
as
put
you
out
can
of
think.
business. What's
Yeah,
that?
no, as big as you can think, you can ask it.
Yeah, it was amazing that a doc, she goes, don't tell anybody I've told you that. But she says you can go to Chat GPT and ask them medical questions too. So I thought that was interesting. So the last question, what is your primary goals for the next 1 to 3 years?
Keep growing the coaching component of it. Obviously, keep growing the podcast. Really get the merchandise out there.
Yeah,
Um,
I'd
and
like
to
to
be
buy some merch.
Well, it's on my website. I've got from starfish necklaces to keychains to Why Not Today t-shirts. I've got cups. I've got mugs. All kinds of fun
And
stuff.
it's whynottoday.com.
No, that's a country music song. It's whynottoday.movement.com.
Okay, whynottoday.movement.com.
And the mission for Why Not Today Movement, I always say, is to inspire all of us to live our life, to be brave and pursue our dreams.
Yes, yes. Well, I thank you so much. And that concludes our episode today with Leslie. And I hope that her journey has resonated, encouraged, and motivated you to start your journey. Why not start today? Thank you, Leslie, for joining me on Doing Different. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this podcast so we can get it out to as many women as possible so they don't feel alone in their journeys. And you can follow me on YouTube channel called Doing Different with Kimmy and on Spotify at Doing Different with Kimmy and my episodes called Doing Different. Also on Instagram at MP Prairie and Kimmy and my website, all lowercase letters, doing-different.com. And I have a private circle group on Facebook called Doing Different with Kimmy. I believe, Leslie, you're in that group. So you can send me a friend request, Kim Sear Baker at CYR Baker. And if you don't have social media, then you can email me at btelskcmb@yahoo.com. And if you're a woman over the age of 50 and you have a story to share, a passion to ignite, or wisdom to impart, I would love for you to join me on my podcast. So just send me an email and we can connect. And until next time, keep doing different.